Mr. Mittal, a very warm welcome to you. In fact, India is home to one of the largest higher education systems in the world, with over 1,000 universities and 50,000 colleges and institutions. And these together cater to more than 39 million students. So it's a huge segment. And we have seen, with pandemic, all segments, all industries, all sectors were impacted. They had to change their whole procedures, their way of working, their businesses, their engagement with their customers. My first question, therefore, just to set, the further questions on that, how has COVID impacted the education sector?
Thank you, Sapna ji. This is, I would say, a very important question which we are all grappling with during these times of pandemic. And a very good afternoon to all the participants and the viewers. For me, COVID has been a kind of a game changer in the education sector. In fact, education sector was one sector which was kind of very slow to adopt technology and the changes, I would say, in nearly last 2 decades, when most other sectors were getting transformed or getting disrupted in a big way with the introduction of technology or no complete process, I would say, change. But somehow education was kind of very slow to adopt. And the COVID pandemic has been that kind of a catalyst as a kind of a game changer in this transformation of education system which we are currently seeing. I would say that the change which otherwise would have come in probably a period of next 5 to 10 years has actually come in the education sector in a matter of a few months. We're nearly about 1.5 years now into the pandemic. And I think almost everybody is now sitting up and making notice of the need for change and the changes which have actually happened. Administrators, faculty, students, the stakeholders, everybody is now asking the same question as to what are the kind of changes which are now permanent in the education system. And I would say that the future of education is a sort of a hybrid mode of education or a blended mode of education. Because we were forced to go completely online. And of course, that is not a very sustainable system to move forward, because you also need a lot of a physical contact between the student and the teachers, and also student to student. It's not just a teacher to student learning which takes place, but also there's a lot of peer-to-peer learning which takes place in a classroom. And also when the students ask question, it's also feedback for the teacher also. So there is a need for a physical connect also. And it's not just that the online education will completely meet our needs. So I think future of education is hybrid or blended mode of education. And that is the biggest disruption which has happened due to COVID pandemic.
Okay, so biggest disruption is that we, going forward, we are going to, like for working now with work from home and everything. So, most of the people say now we are going to see hybrid model of someday working from home, someday working from offices. And I think with the education also, as Mr. Mittal is saying, a hybrid model is emerging and probably is the future for education also. But as you said, what change had to happen in 5 to 6 years has suddenly, we had to deal with it within few months. So how ready or preparedness was there in the education system? What were the challenges? Because there are a lot of stakeholders, the education, partners, the teachers, the students, the entire ecosystem. So what were the challenges that, the department like yours had to face?
Yeah, so it's been a big learning experience for everybody involved, for the management side, for the teachers, as well as for the students. I would say the system has adapted itself very well considering the constraints which we had. I'll give you an example of it. So we went into a complete lockdown sometime around 24th or 25th of March of last year. And the students schools and colleges got shut sometime around the middle of the March. Now, when we were 1 month into that closure of the colleges, sometime around the middle of April, we said that, because the situation was continuing in a very uncertain way. And we thought that this is not how we can move forward. We need to do something. And then we thought that let's start this online mode of education so that the faculty members can reach out to the students through online methods. And we were very pleasantly surprised that when we actually issued orders in that regard that let's go on for online education. within about 2 days, 93% of our faculty members were up and running through some mode of online education, whether it was Zoom platform or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams or bunch of other local available systems. So they were I would say quite prepared in that regard. That readily they started. Of course, it required a lot of hand-holding and training for them to move forward. But I can say today, most of our faculty members are conversant in online delivery of education. So that has been kind of a learning process which happened. But the biggest constraint is on the student side. And that is in terms of access to a device or access to even internet in some remote areas, or also a cost of internet though India is globally considered to be one of the cheapest destinations for internet bandwidth, but still for students who come from very marginal backgrounds or poorer backgrounds, affording a connection was and is difficult. So though last year we found that nearly about 60 to 65% of the students were attending online classes, but that number slowly came down to about 30 to 35% a couple of months back, before we reopened our educational institutions last month.
Okay. So what are your suggestions? As you rightly mentioned that, the first, the access to internet, second is the cost of the internet, although everyone nowadays have, smartphones, but then again, for the economically weaker sections, the cost of smartphone. What are your suggestions? How we can address that?
So I think what is paramount is that the governments, both I would say central governments and the state governments, have to combine together to bring out a program or a scheme to ensure that every student has a device. Every student who is in either a school or a college has to have a device. Going forward, I think that is almost becoming like a mandatory requirement now as we move forward with the kind of uncertainties we are seeing. And I don't think just the state governments have enough resources to provide a device for every student. And I think that's the reason why both state governments and the central government have to combine together to bring out a scheme wherein students can be provided with the devices going forward. And I think that is a kind of an achievable task if we have I would say a national level goal that yes, every student should get a device. That is something which maybe not in 1 year, maybe 2 to 3 years or 5 years down the line, we can achieve with the investments every year.
That's right. It's like textbooks now that, we say textbooks are mandatory for all students. I think, smartphones or access to a laptop or a computer will become as mandatory as that. And as you said, we are talking about Digital India, and this is a Digital India initiative. So probably, as you said, 5-6 years, maybe sooner, we will see this kind of an initiative happening from the government end as well. But how do you see the role of public and private partnership in this? Because like you spoke about the team, the Microsoft team and Zoom and, so softwares like these and even, systems. So how do you see, do you see the opportunity of private sector now coming and holding hands with the government agencies on that?
Yeah. So I see a lot of innovation happening on the ground, because now I keep getting these proposals from various quarters. Many of them are in writing or an online demo or a presentation, and I see that the whole educational ecosystem has suddenly got rejuvenated, because people felt that there is a huge need of systems, online systems which are required, whether it is learning management system, whether it is online content delivery system, whether it is evaluation system. I see a lot of people are now providing evaluation systems with either AI based online proctoring or a human proctoring. There are online training systems which are now coming up, and I think this is a very good sign, because once this sort of innovation is happening around, with time, we will find that the systems become mature enough, they will learn from each other, and we will come out with some I would say very mature products which can meet the comprehensive needs of the educational system. But if you ask me today, I think we are in the process of this transformation, wherein people are learning from each other, and the systems, some of the systems provide, I would say, one particular aspects nicely, but they are weak in some other aspect. But they're all learning from each other, and that mutual learning is bringing out the best, I would say, in the market today.
That's right. So huge potential for private, organizations or private solution providers, in the government segment, especially for education. I think you spoke about, how, there are various softwares now for assessment, etc. Another very important, which Mr. Sisodia also mentioned in his address, was the curriculum. Our curriculums had been designed for offline studying, in-person studying. So that has to upgrade now to online studying. So what are the initiatives in that direction?
So for that, I think what we also need to be clear about is what is going to be the overall delivery of the content in the future. If you ask me, I would, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, the future is kind of a blended mode. And according to me, I think the future is that the actual content, which is I would say the information part of it, would be something which can be delivered online or on an IT based system. It may not be like a kind of happening at the same time and being received at the same time. It could be kind of an IT based system, where the student can go through that content at his or her own pace. In the sense, if I am not able to understand a concept in a classroom, I can't obviously rewind it. Or if I am, let's say, finding the content too slow, I can't fast forward it. So content in a classroom is designed for an average student as an average or an average learner. So the slow students suffer because they can't keep pace with the class. The faster students suffer because they find it too boring and too slow. So the benefit of an IT based system is that you can actually personalize the pace and personalize the content according to the student. So that is one part of it. Now the physical part of it. So the nature of classrooms also have to change. Presently, the nature of our classroom is more of information provision. No, a teacher comes into the classroom, they write on the board, the students are taking notes. In fact, I can tell you, I was shocked to see that even in our technical education system in polytechnics, I was finding that no, teachers are dictating notes, simply dictating notes to the students. And because till now what was happening in a classroom in some remote place. You can't visit each and every classroom, but since now it is happening online, you can actually look at what is actually happening in the classroom. Maybe the team can actually at random look at what is happening. So for us, it was a kind of a shocker that even students who are after 10th class, who are into a polytechnic, let's say first, second, third year of polytechnic, teachers were simply dictating notes to them. And I think that is something which has to be completely done away with. The nature of classroom has to change into more of a discussion and a discussion forum, and where real learning takes place, and it is not just one way content. And I think once we have this overall architecture of what the educational system should be, we will be able to design both this IT based content and the classroom based content well. And that is I would say the key before we attempt to do this.
You spoke about how education, the way of education, like you mentioned that they were simply giving notes. It has to be more discussion based, more deliberations, and talking about applications than rather than the facts and figures. Coming to the technical education, one area that we always hear from the industry is that the graduates or the technical students that come out, they are not industry ready. So they need to be skilled by the industry. How do you see that gap? Is this we have taken that digital leap, as to say. Do you see that gap? We are filling that gap with this leap that we have taken. Is this an enabler? How do you see that gap now? We can address that.
I think this issue which you're talking about is now, I would say, well understood or well received in the educational system. If I look at the technical education side of it, it is now something which is considered to be a very important issue, because ultimately you are producing students for the needs of the industry. I mean, the bulk of students, some of them, okay, may go for higher education or into research, but bulk of the students are meant to fulfill the needs of the industry. And in order to ensure that the students are actually readily available with the requisite skills for the industry, few things which are happening presently, and I think few things need to happen. So one of the things which has happened is that AICT, which is the regulatory entity for the technical education in the country, has brought in new model curriculum sometime back in 2018, and it is now being implemented by most universities, with few modifications on their own. And I think the distinct change or the distinct difference with this new curriculum was that it is much more practical oriented. Whereas the curriculums before that were very, very theoretical oriented, this curriculum is very practical oriented, in order to ensure that the students are able to understand the practical aspects of it well, and then apply the concept which they learn into practice. So that is one. Two, what has happened is that now industrial internship has become mandatory. And so much so that what we have done in Telangana is that we have divided the institutions also into two parts. The reason was that the industry complains that you are sending all your students in one semester to us, and in the other semester there's nobody. So they are also not able to take care of this surge of students suddenly in one semester, and the other semester is completely, there's nobody. No, industry is not able to operate like that. So they need some kind of a continuity throughout the year. So what we did is we divided our institutions into two parts. So and we kind of match them each other. So one institution will send in the even semester, and one institution will send in the odd semester. And maybe next year they can reverse each other, depending on the mutual needs of that. So that ensures that the industry gets a student for the whole year, and then they can plan how do you train that student or deploy that student on their side. So that is one which has worked very well, and especially in our diploma level institutions, it has given very, very good results, I must say, and the industry has been very supportive of it. Secondly, what we have done, another innovation in Telangana is something we mentorship model of Austria through a company called Alpla, which is headquartered in Austria, and with the help of local CII, the Confederation of Indian Industries. It's a relationship between CII, Alpla, and the Department of Technical Education, wherein what we said is the entire final year the student can actually do in the industrial premises, and that the industry will probably be teaching the subjects which the students are able to take in the final year with some sort of a tutoring. They can come to our institution and take the exams, but go back to the industry, and the full year is completely on the site training for the students. And we are calling it dual apprenticeship, because they do also their coursework parallelly, and then they are completely doing the training. And this is a sort of an adaptation of the Austrian apprenticeship or the German apprenticeship concept. And we think that this has generated a lot of interest in our local industry. And I also spoke to the CII, also the South Zone, their council meet. And we are seeing now this model being appreciated by the industry, and they're coming forward to this. So that is another thing. Third thing which can also be done is, which we are also requesting the industry to do, is prepone their placements. For example, instead of doing placements, let's say in the final semester or a penultimate semester, do the placements towards the end of the third year. So once that is done, then the fourth year is completely available for the institution. Design a custom program for the industry, so that the student can learn whatever he or she needs to do in the industry. Now, these are the bunch of things which are possible. But ultimately, I also want to say is that the future of work is also changing. I mean, having said whatever I've said, it's also now very well appreciated that the whole future of the work is changing, and it is becoming more and more uncertain and more flexible. So instead of kind of preparing students for one particular job, I think we also have to prepare students so that they can also reskill themselves and learn quickly whenever there is a shift in the nature of the job. And I think more and more emphasis also has to go into that side of it.
Some very valid points, Mr. Mittal, you made. One, the initiative of giving students industry experience, joining hands with the industry, and placing them with the industry for their training. I think that's a very good move, giving them the right experience that they would need in future in their professional career. And also what you mentioned, that with this entire year has shown us how life is uncertain, and the way things are happening. So our students of the future need to be ready for uncertainties. They need to be able to quickly reskill themselves. So I think very valid points made by Mr. Mittal. Again, another area to address in terms of higher education is the number of institutes, the desirable higher education institutes. While we have number of, as we mentioned, that we have thousands of colleges and institutes, the number of desirable higher education institutes and the students seeking admission in these institutes, that gap is quite a lot. What can we do in that area?
So I think NEP gives a good roadmap for it, because NEP says that the institutions in future, let's say a decade down the line, will be of three types. One is the research-based universities, two is the teaching-based universities, and the third is the autonomous degree-granting colleges. Right now our problem is this whole affiliation system of colleges to affiliating universities. And if you look at a global education system, this affiliation concept is native to only the Indian subcontinent. So India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, these are the countries which have this affiliation system. But you don't see this affiliation system in most countries of the world, and not at all in the developed world. The problem with this affiliation system is that whether you have the best quality college or whether you have the poorest quality college, ultimately the degree is given by the affiliating university. So I can give you an example of, let's say, Telangana engineering. Most of our engineering colleges are affiliated to JNTU, which is Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, and it ranks pretty high among the technological universities in the country. It is among the top 50 in the country in terms of universities. Now, whether you have the best college or you have the worst college, I would say number one or the number last in the list, both these colleges, they may focus on, the best college may focus on quality, the worst may not, but ultimately the degree is coming from JNTU. So there is no real incentive for the poor or the bad colleges to improve, and the students also in some ways don't mind, because ultimately the degree is coming from the universities. And I think NEP recognizes this need and is now talking about this shift into autonomous degree granting colleges. And with that shift, this focus on quality will become even more, I would say, paramount. Because if an institution or a college has to stand on its own with its own degree, let's say XYZ college says, no, now I am giving degree and not the affiliating university, the students will look at whether that degree has any importance in the market or not. Right now, that is not at all there. And I think this is one very significant shift which is happening. Two, as you rightly said, there are some very low strength colleges and there are some good strength colleges. And I think it has been our experience, and especially in the state of Telangana, we have seen these low strength colleges and poor quality colleges kind of getting kind of closed at a very, very fast pace because of availability of information now and availability of online students. Students are also kind of more aware of what their previous batches have chosen, or which college has good placement and which college has poor placement. So that is accelerating the shift of kind of exit of these poor quality colleges in a big way. But then our regulatory system is such that we also have cap our seats. So seats in most colleges. For example, in medical college, there's a cap of, let's say, 100 or 150 or 200 seats. You can't really go beyond that. Similarly, for engineering, we have a cap over what is the number of seats they can have, and beyond that they are not allowed to go. And I think with the second part of shift which I spoke about, teaching universities, if some of these good quality colleges become universities of the future, I think that is where that kind of growth of some of these colleges will come as future universities, I would say. And this is the kind of change which is happening, but it is a slow change. And I think it will take us some time, maybe I would say close to a decade, for us to move into the education system which you are talking about.
Okay, so that entire transformation, I think it's a gradual process where we weed out the low quality colleges, we uplift the good quality colleges, into upgrade them to campuses and universities. So it's a gradual process. In terms of technical education board, how are you? What are with this entire digital shift that has happened? How has the board working? Has what are your strategies for the future? How are you looking at the future?
So one is we are very conscious. I mean, the kind of things which we have spoken about in last half an hour or so is that what kind of curriculum needs to be there for the future. So we are very conscious of that fact, and then the new curriculum which we have brought in this year, that is 2021, is the year in which we are bringing in new curriculum for our technical institutions. And that curriculum basically imbibes a lot of things which we have spoken about. For example, we are also today talking of an open book exam, in the sense students can bring the prescribed books for the exam, because we want them that exams should no more be rote learning exams, but it should be more of a test of your ability to apply the concepts which you have learned. So that is the change which we are bringing. We are also having a lot of infusion of technology into it. For example, our evaluation system has completely been transformed into on-screen digital evaluation. Of course, we have not gone in for completely online examination because of lack of device on the student side. But what we are trying to do is that the answer scripts are scanned and then evaluated by our teachers online. And that is giving us a very, very rich quality data, because now we have question-wise performance of every student in a database. And that helps us to analyze which concept students find difficult, which concept a teacher may find difficult to teach, what is the performance of a particular college, and which colleges are doing well, which colleges are not doing well, students from which background are doing well, which background are not doing well. So I feel that once you digitize things, you also have these secondary spin-offs which are very, very valuable, I would say.
Okay, right. So once you have the information on your fingertips, I think that would make things a lot more easy, and very good initiatives what you spoke about. So talking about Telangana, so how Telangana, let's talk about the education. You have already mentioned how, the changes that you are bringing. In terms of Telangana education, in terms of Telangana colleges, in terms of the students, how they are, your overview of last 1.5 years, how things have happened, and what are the major shifts that your outlook for next few months or years?
So I would say this last 1.5 year has been a very difficult year, because we have not been able to reach out, in spite of our best efforts. We have not been able to reach out to every student, because of the physical constraints which I have mentioned about, lack of device or lack of access to internet. And we are trying to make it up now, since the campuses have opened. We are focusing on vaccination in a big way. We are trying to ensure that every student who's coming to our campus, or every faculty member who is already there on the campus, is vaccinated. And we are trying to ensure that this gap which has happened is sort of bridged during, let's say, next few months. So that is one of the focuses which we have as of now. We are also focusing on providing market-related skills in a big way, because on the job market side also there's been a huge shift which has happened. A lot of work has moved from on-site to work from home. So that requires a lot of focus on computer skills also, and we are trying to ensure that computer skills are at the core of our educational system, and we have brought in for almost every degree college student, we are ensuring now that they learn computers as part of their curriculum. So that is another shift. We've also tried to bring in a lot of flexibility in terms of, and that was actually planned pre-COVID, but COVID happened, but we still went ahead with that. Last year, we have been able to bring in huge amount of flexibility in terms of student choices. Prior to 2019, we had fixed choices of subjects for degree college students. But last year, we have been able to bring in a huge flexibility. Subjects are divided into buckets, and students can choose the subjects which they want from bucket, and that has been very successful. And we think that with time we can further strengthen that.
So that's some very good moves. One is flexibility, in choice of subjects that the student can take, for their higher education. Second, computer literacy, increasing computer literacy among students. And third is, trying to reach out to all the students, the last mile connectivity with most of the students in whatever parts of the state. So some very good initiatives, I must say, from the Telangana Education Board. Now, before we let you go, Mr. Mittal, what is your message to the students out there who might be listening to this entire conversation?
So I would like to tell the students that, especially from the Indian context, is that India is full of opportunities, and I can tell you that the COVID pandemic, though it may have brought in disruption in the education system, but it has also kind of accelerated India's growth in many ways. Work from home is something which I would say is to the benefit of India, because if work can happen from home, then work can happen in India from anywhere in the world. And also, due to the geopolitical situations which we're seeing around India, a lot of manufacturing focus is also happening in India. So I feel that the coming years are full of opportunities. So you should equip yourself to make the best out of the opportunities which are available. Don't get disheartened with the disruption which has happened, but use it to strengthen your resolve and to make the best use of these opportunities in the coming years.
That's right. Every crisis has an opportunity as well. And yes, for our students out there, a lot of opportunities, as Mr. Mittal mentioned. And, thanks so much for sharing that very wonderful pointers. What we can do, challenges are there, transformations are going to happen gradually. We cannot expect them to happen overnight. But as long as they are happening, they are in the pipeline, and, the policymakers are working on that. So I think the future is bright, and our education system, I think one of the best in the world, is going to prosper. Thank you so much, Mr. Mittal, for that wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.